we asked you to talk about visionary art and creative process, as I recall. Can you just kind of give us an idea real quick? What can we expect to learn and interact with here?
Well, I mean, let's see. Are there any artists here? You're an artist? You're an artist. Okay. Yeah, we can talk about pretty much whatever you guys want to talk about. What do you want to know about? I'm a visionary artist. I'm also a producer. I produce electronic music. For this festival, we're playing psytrance music. My psytrance set at 11 p.m. on Friday. I also have my art over there. Me and my wife are both visionary artists. We paint art, and we put our art in clothing right over there. And yeah, you guys can come check it out if you want. So, what kind of artists? What kind of stuff do you guys paint or make?
Visionary art with acrylics.
Okay.
CGI visionary art.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. What do you want to know about visionary art? What questions do you have? We can start with that.
May I?
Yeah.
What are some of the prime symbols that inspire you in your art?
Definitely sacred geometry, for sure.
Any particular ones?
The flower of life I like a lot. Yeah. But you know, all of geometry. Visionary art is very much a it's a spiritual experience, and you're kind of channeling what your subconscious is connecting to the superconscious mind of the universe. And so when you're painting or you're creating any form of visionary art, that's kind of what you're doing. You don't even have to be on any sort of medicinal anything. You're basically channeling what's coming through, what that medicinal practice would be bringing through otherwise. And so you're putting that to paper, putting that to computer, or however you paint, acrylics or whatever.
Emmy.
Do you guys want to make visionary art? Do you sell visionary art?
I could, but so far I'm keeping it to myself.
Okay.
Because I feel like they kind of take on a life of their own that serves me
Uh-huh.
my growth. So I just love to have them around my own house.
Okay. And do you see yourself selling your artwork at some point?
Yeah. I don't really know how to go about it.
Okay, we can start with that. So basically, social media is a big deal. Yeah. But it gets really tricky nowadays because of, let's see, back in, was it 2020, when AI art became a thing? And yeah, that really flooded social media with art. Before that, it was like social media, you post your art up and people see it, and you had something that not everybody else had, and not everybody else could do. And so you could post it and people wanted to go to your social media page to get that fix. And now, basically in 2020, all of social media got flooded with all this art. And because all these people were just making, art who were not artists previously. And that really, that definitely hurt the whole, the artists that were actually making art in the beginning. It's definitely starting to round out, because, there's in any market, there's a peak and then a correction. And so right now we're going through a correction in that whole process where people are recognizing, oh, that person's just making AI art. And so that, those pages are not really getting the traction that they used to. So because that correction is happening, you definitely have an upper hand now. But between that, the past 5 years, there was a definite boom in art on social media that really ruined things for a lot of people. And then another thing you have to think about is, when you post your art, is somebody going to go and take that and feed it into an AI, and train it on your art? That's another thing to think about, right? So ways that you can get around that are doing video. Don't ever post pictures of your art. Yeah. Unless you're doing physical pieces that that's another thing you can think about too. If you can make your art physical in some way that can't be replicated by AI, then the attraction is the physical piece, right? And then you can do other things like AI art is two-dimensional, right? And so if you're adding something like, for instance, like glitter, right? AI can't replicate glitter, right? Or some sort of shiny aspect to your art that you're using metallic paints or something.
Mirror. What about
Mirrors, yeah. Anything that goes into the three-dimensional aspect, then you have an upper hand because it can't be replicated. It can't be fed into an AI to replicate. Someone's not even going to think about that. They're going to look at that. Oh, I'm not going to try to do that. Even just to get the style. So, yeah. And then for promoting yourself, you gotta try to post every day if you can. But really the best thing to do is to get your art into the hands of people, go to events, paint, do things like that, live painting. Art is a really tricky thing because you have to know kind of why people buy art, and that's what makes art sell. So you have to be able to connect to people with something that they, like a memory that they have, something that they connect with. And so that's why somebody buys a piece of art. So for instance, if somebody goes to a tourist location, right, they're as a tourist and they're on vacation, right, they're going to be wanting to buy something that helps them remember that vacation. It's something they can take home with them, right? And so, for instance, at a festival, somebody's going to buy something that reminds them of being at that festival. And that's what triggers the sale. So that's something you got to think about. You have to, as an artist, you have to meet people halfway. It's not, you can't just create and expect people to buy your art. There's a 50-50 thing. You want to sell it, you got to think about, okay, what do people want? How do I trigger that feeling in somebody where they need to have it because it reminds them of something that is a part of them and their experience. Did you have any questions?
Yeah, so that's the question I have on that is you're influencing a person to get your needs met, which are to sell this piece.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you could go down a dark road with that as far as manipulation. And I don't, that's one part of commerce that I really can't stand personally.
Yeah, it's something that every artist is going to go through. It's just, it's part of it. You have to think about what people want to buy. It's like any product. You make anything, you can't make something that people, that expect to sell it, nobody wants to buy it. You have to meet people halfway. You have to create, you as an artist are creating something for other people. Unless you're not, and you're just creating for yourself and you don't want to sell it, right? But if you do want to sell your art, you have to meet people halfway. Otherwise it just, otherwise it just won't sell. And then another part of creating art is value and what makes something valuable. And this kind of gets into what I was talking to you about, creating something that's hard to replicate with AI. Well, you also as an artist want to create something that's hard to replicate, period. Because the harder the entry point into another artist creating something similar to you, the more valuable your piece of artwork is going to be. There was this one famous artist. He creates those steel balloons. Do you know what I'm talking about? They sell for like millions and millions of dollars. He made like this, those twist up balloons, like like a clown will twist them up into a dog. Well, he made made this huge giant one out of steel, stainless steel, but it looks like one of those dog balloons, right? And it sold for millions and millions of dollars, right? Now, the reason that sold for so much is because the entry point into somebody else creating something of that scale with that skill set is so high that it's worth so much money. All he had to do was put it into the right place and get the right publicity. That's it. That was it. And you create something of that huge scale and difficulty, and somebody's going to want to write about it. Somebody's going to want to be like, oh, check this out, get it on video, and, post it, and something like that will go viral because it's unique, it's different, nobody's done it before, all of that kind of stuff. And so that's what creates value in your artwork, is the difficulty in which it takes to create that piece. And so and then also another part of that too is that, for instance, that steel dog balloon, it's almost nearly indestructible, right? For the most part, it's going to last through time. And that's another thing that creates value in your artwork, how well it's going to last through time. So, something to think about when you're, creating. If you want to sell art, those are like part of the principles in how you do it. If you can hit every single one of those, then you can make it as an artist. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
This dynamic that I'm visioning with art is that it would be okay. Art is beautiful, giant, sculpted pieces everywhere, but I can't eat it or wear it or live in it. So I just like the part about art where it's my shoes or my hat or whatever. So is there a dynamic of usefulness?
Yeah. So that's why I sell clothes.
Right.
Yeah, because basically, he's talking about, especially today, it's in the market today, it's definitely difficult to sell art to people as far as prints and paintings go. That's a lot more difficult to sell nowadays. When you're doing stuff like that, you're entering into like the high end, high end art, and basically you got to find somebody with a lot of money in order to purchase that kind of stuff. So it's a lot easier to find a way to make a useful piece of art that makes something that's useful, like a piece of clothing, right? People love to wear clothing; they love their fashion, right? So they're much more willing to open up their wallet for clothing rather than a print, because of just the way it is today. Because people don't have that much money nowadays.
And that part of it is that, some people want to buy the art, don't have a house to put it in.
Yeah,
traditional house to put it in, or
Yeah, that gets into the same thing. Like they don't have the money to have a home, the right type of home or the size of a home to put a piece of art in. Another thing you got to think about when you're making art too is this piece of art going to, and this applies to clothing too, is this piece of art going to fit into somebody's home? Is it going to fit their color scheme, right? Even for clothing, right? Is it going to fit their wardrobe? So, for instance, when I first started painting, I was doing a lot of visionary erotic stuff, but somebody is not likely to go and buy that and put it up in their home, right? So you've restricted one part of, they may like it, but you've restricted their ability to put it up in their home, most likely. So they're, less likely to purchase that piece of art. So that's another thing you have to think about. Is this presentable in somebody's home? And is it going to fit their home motif, right? Their color schemes. Most people's homes have to do with, there's a lot of wood involved, right? Wood colors, earth tones, or even, pastel colors. You go walk into somebody's home, these are normal kind of color schemes that you see in homes. And so you have to think about, is this going to fit in somebody's home? A neon piece of work, right, is less likely to be bought and placed in someone's home because of the color scheme that it is. You're going to have a lot harder, time finding somebody who's into putting neon stuff in their home versus somebody who's putting earth tones in their home. And so you got to kind of find a balance. You really like the neon colors, I know this artist who paints on wood, right? Gets nice pieces of wood. He'll paint neon stuff on that wood, but you can still see most of the wood, right? So somebody who, likes neon stuff, but their home has a lot of wood in it, is still going to want to buy that. And he sells these pieces for like $3,000. Yeah. So these are kind of like the compromises that you got to think about. You have to think about who your customer is. You got to think about what they want to do with that piece of art. Are they placing in their home? What is their home going to be like? What are most people's homes going to be like? Do you have a question?
It's just, you went over it earlier, but I'd like to look more in depth on whenever you create a piece of art, how do you determine its value?
Yeah, okay, so the value is based on the difficulty that it took you to make it, how long it took you to make it, and also the demand for whatever that is, that style or that type of work. Yeah, I definitely have to make a market comparison for sure. And something you want to think about too is you want to think about how you can speed up your process. So shortcuts are super important. As an artist, you're going to get this is a really difficult thing to overcome is the idea of shortcuts. Shortcuts are very important as an artist. If you cannot develop shortcuts, you're going to be struggling. You have to figure out how do you make the same level of work in a shorter amount of time. Your speed is the most important thing that you have to your advantage. The more pieces that you can create that still look like, they've been worked on for much longer than you did, the more money you're going to make. And that's really important. So I always tell people, so the story of when I used to work on cars. So I used to paint cars when I was in high school for car shows. And I was being trained and apprenticed by an airbrusher. And this is a big lesson for me that he taught me. We were painting this old classic hot rod car, and it was going to be like a pearl orange. And the customer wanted realistic flames over the fenders and the sides of the car. And he's like, all right, I'm going to make these flames the best, most realistic flames that anybody has ever seen. How are we going to do this? He goes and gets his barbecue in his backyard, and he just lights a huge fire, takes pictures of it, tons of pictures. This is back before we had all this fancy technology. He goes and takes these pictures. He gets them printed out on those cellophane things for those old school projectors that we grew up with, right? Overhead projectors, they called them, right? And he put that picture on that cellophane on that projector, and he put the fender up on the wall. Shortcuts. And then he used that, and he painted. He used the projector and he painted what he saw projected onto that fender. And he had super realistic looking flames, the most realistic flames I'd ever seen at the car show. Yeah. So you got to think about shortcuts. How do you speed up your process and do things and get, and even in this case, he got an even better result than anybody else through that shortcut. So yeah. So the value is basically determined on how well you can come up with these shortcuts, and how well you can produce an even better product than other people, and speed up your process. On top of all the other things that I was talking about, so the level of difficulty and all that kind of stuff, right? And then when you come up with these shortcuts, you keep those shortcuts to yourself. You have a question? No? Another question? Do you have a question? No? What do you guys want to talk about at all? Anything?
Elephants?
Huh?
Elephants?
Elephants, we're going to talk about.
I heard that meditation was really great this morning.
The meditation?
Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't here for it. I was.
Yeah, I was in my tent.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Um, art is a meditation. Yeah, I would say that that's kind of what really got me into it. It's the meditative process of painting. Uh, like there was a festival just recently. The guy paints on the wood, right? I watch him. So he's doing live painting at the show, and his painting is set up like at his booth, and he'll walk 30, 40 feet away from his painting, and he's just like getting down, sitting up, looking over at his painting from different angles all over the place, and then he'll come back and he'll add something to it, and but that whole process that he's doing, right? It's a very meditative process. You're just kind of like staring into this painting, and then you're adding one stroke at a time to this piece, and you're not consciously thinking about it. You're not like thinking, I need to put this here, I need to put this here. At least maybe in the beginning, depends on your style, but in every form of art there's definitely a point where you reach this subconscious flow, which is a meditation of what you're creating. You got a question?
Yeah, how important are like art classes or training?
Okay, so traditional art classes that you're going to go, pay a lot of money for, or art school, not worth it. Not worth it at all. Art school doesn't have any determining factor on whether you make it or not. Not even in the fields of production for a company, or graphic design. None of that. You can do everything that any of those people can do. You can learn all of that stuff on YouTube. But it's very important that you do learn that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
depending on what you're doing. Because if you're doing abstract stuff, it really doesn't matter. If you're doing realistic stuff, on the spectrum, right? You got abstract, and then you got super hyper realism. Wherever you are in that spectrum, right, is going to determine how much you want to learn about color theory and all that kind of stuff. If you're leaning more into, you want to put some realistic looking stuff there on your work, you definitely want to learn that kind of things. Like, shadows are, for the most part, going to be cold, and light sources are always going to be warm. Yeah.
The one thing I think that college or art college could help in is if you want to work in a gallery and talk about art.
Yeah. If you want to talk about art, yeah. If you want to be somebody who's selling art, other people's art, yeah, probably, yeah.
And a history of a certain art,
Yeah, if you want to know, then maybe, you can't, but you don't need to. You could still go and learn all that stuff on YouTube if you wanted to. But probably to get hired at a gallery as a salesperson, they probably expect you to, have gone through some sort of schooling like that. Yeah, definitely. But as far as like creating art, I mean, you can learn literally everything on YouTube. If you want to learn techniques, or oil painting or acrylic painting, that's another thing. Like, so as far as art goes, in the painting world, right, you've got these different kind of scales of what people think is worth something. And this kind of gets back to the question that you had, right? People always view oil paintings as being the best above acrylic, and it really it has to do with the level of difficulty, even though I would argue that acrylic painting is a bit more difficult than oil painting, because with oil painting you've got the ability to blend, and acrylic you don't. It takes extra steps to do the blending. Oil painting, depending on the type of oil you're using, you can paint, you can come back to that painting the next day and still blend in everything that you want to blend, as long as you've covered it probably with something like a plastic sheet maybe, or and it also depends on what type of oil you use. Some you can just leave it out. It's not going to dry, and then you're expecting that it's not going to dry for for days, maybe a week, and you can come back and keep blending into that painting. So, but traditionally they always view the oil paintings as being more valuable than acrylic paintings, and so that's also something to think about. As oil painting is definitely going to be easier though to create a better product. Yeah, acrylic painting, the blending is just yeah, very difficult. Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
One more. I like this thing you were talking about, getting the art done quickly. And
Yeah.
there is I met a guy, Wamatashi, and he had like a 40 by 40 canvas.
Uh-huh.
And in 15 minutes, he filled the whole thing. And he said, now who wants to buy this? I'll
Yeah.
pay $1,200 in 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially if you can add some sort of wow factor to what you're doing. So especially if you're doing something like that, you're painting something really quick for people. If you can create some sort of showmanship, wow factor, to what you're doing, that works really well for social media. If you're painting an oil painting, that's going to be very difficult to post on Instagram, your process and what you're doing, right? People like to see that kind of stuff. They like to watch people, what's the word for it? Eye candy, right? So they like to watch eye candy on Instagram. And so when they're scrolling, they see somebody, hanging some bucket from the ceiling with all these different colors, and they swing it across. Like you've probably seen those before, or
Spray painting.
spray painting, yeah, and or some sort of sculpting combination with spray painting or airbrushing, and and they create those pieces really quickly, and they sell them for a lot of money because of that wow factor, and they're able to gain so much traction on social media. So that's definitely something you probably want to think about. If you can figure out how to create some sort of wow factor, showmanship to what you're doing, and create video of it and post it all the time, I mean, that'll go viral.
And the other thing I see about, or that I've learned, is that I have a artistic expression, but I don't have the. It takes about two to get because I can build a thing, but I can't talk it into the. So I'm seeking a producer, a showman, somebody who will do the. I'm not introvert at all, but
You want somebody to sell your art for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
It's been a real uphill struggle. I'm about to jump off the top.
Yeah, especially with art, right? The people who buy your art, they want to connect with you as a person, and they don't care about how well you're able to present yourself, and they don't care about that at all. And they want to know you, they want to get to know you, and they want to see authenticity, and that's ultimately what's going to sell your work, is the authenticity of meeting you and seeing you and diving into you. Because when yes, they're buying it for the reason that it reminds them of something, or for instance they want to put it up in their home, because it will match their home or things like that. But also, they want to feel like they're buying a piece of you, and that's really important. And so yeah, getting a salesperson to sell your artwork is not a good idea.
It doesn't work.
No.
For this.
Yeah. Do you have a question? No? You got any questions? No? Do you guys want to know anything else about spirituality?
Okay, I got one.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of this is so. There's another kind of art, and that is a spoken word,
Uh-huh.
to be kind of creative in your, like comedians, they're very artistic, you know. And some of them do have sidekicks that hand them the props. And so is that along any spirituality though? Not really.
What do you mean?
Yeah, like a presenter like yourself, I mean, that there's a dynamic that lives in you that brings the words out, and that is an art form. And you don't take it home, wear it, eat it, or anything, but it is an art form. You're presenting. And what did we present? It could be comedy, or the list goes on. Astrology.
Yeah, there's lots of art forms. Art is very, it's almost a blend of, you know, it blends into science a bit, you know, to decide whether something is an art or a science is, it's kind of a spectrum, yeah, or, you know, even a skill set. When there's no, when you go beyond the defined rules of something, you know. But definitely, you know, for instance, comedy, there's a structured system, and they all use it. All comedians use it. Once you know the trick to comedy, which is it's surprising yet obvious. So if you can surprise people, but the end, you know, punchline is obvious, then it's funny, because people didn't see it coming. That's the formula. That's the basis of the formula. They also structure their, you know, comedy skits in 3 acts, and the final joke always leads back to the first joke. Yeah. So there's an art form to be able to do that, but it's a science that you had to practice, you know, and learn the formula first, and then the art form comes in when you are actually putting that, you know, to use.
One very popular thing in the past quite a while is this thing called podcast. And I live right next to a podcast studio, and me and another guy are messing with it. And then we listened to it before we released it, and it was really interesting to hear my voice from the speaker rather, you know, from the audio of listening to the thing. I was like, whoa, I learned some stuff right there.
Oh, your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely sounds different when it travels through a recording system or a PA system. Yeah. Do you have any questions about spirituality? We can talk about that. Yeah. Well, let's start somewhere.
I'd love to start with the idea that okay, so I'm made up of many parts. And so I've been really working the past few years about calling it, this is the truck I'm with now, and stop putting me and mine and I, and going just I am. I am in the Sacred Lost Valley Park today, and the view is beautiful, and the friends are bountiful, and just from I am. And get out of me.
Well,
That-
I am is a very interesting statement. You know, it's basically self-awareness. It's what makes human beings unique. Animals are not self-aware of their own existence, and they cannot question their reality, and they cannot change their reality. They are subject to the subconscious sphere of consciousness, basically, playing out their role in existence. and they can't question it, they can't change it, they can't go and live in a totally different environment. Whereas human beings, we can choose where we want to live. We can go and create, a building on another planet if we wanted to. We can go and live in a totally different environment that we weren't meant for. Even you just look at your own body, right? All the animals are, they're built for their environment. Human beings, we have to wear shoes.
Yeah.
We gotta wear clothes. We can't stay, warm. You can't just be just you in nature and expect to survive. You gotta build things. You gotta create things. You gotta adapt to your environment. You have to change your environment in order to survive in your environment. And so that's something that separates the animal world from the human world.
And I agree, although there are some animals, they're mammals, they don't wear clothes, but the dolphins, the whales, the elephants, and
Oh yeah,
huh?
they're definitely aware, for sure.
Yeah.
They're aware of their surroundings. They're aware of everything else. It's the introspection that they lack, the ability to question their existence and their reality. And you can pretty much see this, it plays out physically, right? You look at animals, and for the most part, they are, they've got, depending on the animal, right? But there's a common thread here. Animals usually, especially mammals, will have tails, and then they walk on four legs, and they usually have, four instead of five. They don't have the, the thumbs, and so it's playing out physically in your own body, right? Your body is a physical representation of your consciousness, and so even all of your bones, everything is all tied into the sacred geometry of especially our solar system. And so human beings have that physical representation of being, God living out a human experience. And it plays out in the way that we physically look. Versus an animal, they're restricted to, walking on all fours, or, they don't have the same physical capabilities that we do. Yeah.
You were saying about the need for clothing and buildings. It hasn't always been that way.
For the most part, yeah. You go back as far as you want, and there's not going to be a single, human being that probably didn't ever, create or use a tool, or, live in some sort of structure that they built, or tried to clothe themselves.
But our dependency has increased dramatically.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I would say that not necessarily a dependency. I think it's just a striving towards making our world more like where we came from. It's like if you were to take a psychedelic medicine of some sort, right? The first thing you're going to start seeing is temples and structures made out of, beautiful rainbow crystalline structures and all kinds of stuff, right? And so the nature of consciousness above, in the higher dimensions is basically what we're trying to replicate here. We're trying to make, technological advancements to, make ourselves more comfortable, and make ourselves faster, or stronger, or, reduce the time to get from one place to the next place, achieve some sort of resemblance of where we come from. And so it's, I would say that it's a very big possibility, especially if you have the viewpoint that you are God living a human experience, that, maybe at some point, human beings, didn't evolve from anywhere. Even if you're looking at ancient, the ancient astronaut theory, or let's go back even further than that. Planet, before, way before we traveled to any planet. Where did we come from before that? Saying we're, probably a, hybrid of some sort, from other species at some point. We're still the same souls traveling through the universe because we're God living a human experience. So at some point, we probably walked into reality. And we've been going further and further and further into physicality. But at some point, we, had far less restriction.
Increase the challenge.
Yeah. Increase the challenge, increase the learning. Yeah. Your ability to learn about who you are. It gets back to the I am, or, know thyself. Right. So the whole point of you being God in the human experience is that you are learning something about yourself, right? Because if you're all of existence all together in a singularity and you know everything, right? What's the point of that? Because you're going to get bored real quick, right? So I always tell people, basically we're God and we've gone mad and we're talking to ourselves. And we're playing out all these scenarios in our head, right? This is all in our head, the head of the universe, there's one spiritual teacher in the Hermetic philosophy named Lon Milo Duquette. He always says, it's all in your head. You just have no idea how big your head is. It's so it's we're probably trying to increase the difficulty, increase the capacity of learning why we exist in the first place, because the ability to question is definitely not a part of the unified whole. It's kind of like an outside aspect to it. No matter what you're doing, there's always this opposition force, and that opposition force is your ability to question. It's even found in all the religions, right? You always have the character that questions everything and decides, hey, this ain't right, I don't like this. I'm going to go do this. And so that it's, even in numerology, it's like the number 13. It's that outside imperfectness that is actually part of the perfect whole. Because if everything was just so well and perfect and there was there would be no ability to question anything. It would just be neutral. And then if everything is neutral, then everything is boring. Right? You're going to get bored. You're like, oh, we got to spice things up. We got to add some level of difficulty or problems to the situation, right? We play video games. People play video games, but you read books. You don't read books. You watch movies.
Not anymore, nah.
Shows.
Nah.
You don't do any sort of no sort of storytelling.
I tell stories, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
write, yeah, and I use ChatGPT a lot, like to reason,
Yeah.
resonate.
So it's all storytelling, right?
Yeah.
So this right here is storytelling. What we're experiencing is a story, and we're in the process of creating that story as we go. And we're the author of that story, as well as the participator of the story too. And but yeah, like a video game, for instance, or a book, or any type of story, it's going to be boring without some sort of opposition, right? Without some sort of antagonist. You got to have these different roles. Like you got to have, the hero, the protagonist, and you have to have the antagonist. If you've got no protagonist, no antagonist in a story, you got no story, right? And those characters allow you to play out these roles and things which, this narrative which gives you something to learn from. For instance, like if you read a story or watch a movie, you're experiencing something that would be probably highly traumatic if you were the person in that story, right? And so the purpose of story itself is to give your subconscious the learning capacity of being in that experience, so that when you go through a traumatic experience, you know how to deal with it. Or you've been through a traumatic experience and you're learning how to heal from it. One of the two. And that story has been, story itself has been like that since the beginning. Human beings have been telling each other stories, forever, and it's always been the use case. One of those two reasons.
I live near Philly. I left there June 15th. I've been driving around the country climbing mountains and sleeping in that tent on the top of that Jeep over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a wild ride, man.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, at some point, even for me, like, I can't read books on the road all the time. I just don't have the time. I'm going from festival to festival, but I've read a lot of books, right? And I've watched a lot of movies and a lot of shows, and those things that I've learned through the experience of being in those stories has shaped my ability to deal with physical reality in my own story. And we seek that out, and we always retrieve that subconscious experience of being that hero on that journey, right? Like Lord of the Rings, right? We're always, have you read those books and watched those movies?
I watched the movies.
Okay, so oftentimes subconsciously, for instance, a good example, going right back to that. You've got these hobbits traveling through the wilderness, right? You're traveling, going through the wilderness. You got this. There's this subconscious struggle that you're always referring back to that story because you watched those movies.
The
And
Matrix was the one that really did it for me. I didn't know why then. Like I couldn't figure it out, but it's like it's becoming a lot more clear.
Exactly. Yeah, the Matrix. Yeah, that's another good example, right? You're going through an awakening in life spiritually, and you're always referring back to this movie that shattered your worldview.
Right.
and there was so much in those movies that were highly spiritual. Even the names, you got Morpheus and Neo and the Oracle, all these different names in that movie, and the roles that they played, and so you're always whenever you're experiencing these bursts of like, what's reality, what's going on, right? You're always going to refer back to that, right? You're going to be like, is it this, is it really like that? Are we in a simulation? Well, the nature of the universe is a simulation. You've got like people like Elon Musk and other people, promoting the simulation theory and saying, oh, if we're not in a simulation, if at some point there's a simulation, right? And or the high probability of it being a simulation. They're doing all this math, right?
Chances of it not being
Yeah, because of the rate of growth of AI. Well, I got some thoughts on that. So basically, the nature of the universe is a simulation. The nature of the universe is kind of like AI itself. If even this is a simulation, you go outside of that, it's still going to be like that. The reason for that is because you cannot escape the laws of the universe. And the laws of the universe are like the laws of physics. In fact, they're like right above the laws of physics. Eventually, they're going to be incorporated into the laws of physics, I'm sure. But as above, so below. Right? The nature of the universe is always mirrored. Everything is a mirror, everything is a reflection. And so the nature of the universe, as we see it right now, if this is just a simulation and there's another something outside of that, that is also going to be a simulation. No matter how far you keep going, there will always be a simulation because the nature of the universe is a simulation. It can only recreate what already exists because of the mirror effect. Everything is a reflection. Yeah, in a way, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like the with the end scene in Men in Black. You got the it zooms out And then it's the universe, and he's playing the alien playing marbles with the universes. Yeah.
But at the same time, our marbles
Yeah, in a way. So basically, we are smack dab right in the middle. Right in the middle of either side of the spectrum. And that's basically because we're God living a human experience. And
if you could name number with
yeah. However, there's yes, yeah. But the further you go from the present moment, the further you're going away from what's real and physical. You see, so and this is something the ancients are always trying to pass on. This secret is that there is. That's why in Lord of the Rings, right? You've got this. J.R.R. Tolkien was definitely into the occult knowledge, and basically what he was saying, you got the one ring to rule them all, right? The Lord of the Rings, right? And the rings represent the realms, and the one ring is the physical realm. And so, if you go through all the ancient teachings, especially the Hermetic ones, it's a lot easier to decipher. But it's like that in all the Asian occult teachings too. No matter where you go in the world, they're going to tell you when you study the secrets, the physical reality is the physical reality because it's the closest to. It's the furthest from infinity, because we're here experiencing time moment by moment. And so if you ever see the symbol of it looks kind of like the anarchy symbol. You got a circle, and then you've got like a triangle, right? I believe there's one website that it's like the ancient text website. That's like their logo. I forgot what the website's called, but they're the ones that have all the ancient texts available online, and that's their symbol. And basically, what that symbol is, it's you have a circle which represents the infinite, and then you've got a slice, right? And this is the symbol for the pyramid or the triangle, and basically that's what that's telling you is that we are a slice out of the infinite, where we experience the infinite moment by moment, which is the complete opposite of the infinite. And so we are the mere reflection of the infinite, which gets back to us being God living a human experience, because we would say God is the infinite, and we're the complete and polar opposite of that, meaning we are the reflection of God living the human experience of time, moment by moment, of the infinite. And it's never going to end. It's never there's no end to it. We're always going to be experiencing something, because if there was an end, then that would be boring, right? You're going to be like, oh, the game over, right? What are you going to do? Go play another game, right? That's what people do. The game's over. Oh, I want to go play another. The book's over. Oh, I want to go read another book, And so that's the nature of the universe. It's infinite. You can just keep reading these books of life, experiencing, a new life, a new experience.
Like CEO of Google or this other guy said, he heard it, so I think he said, we are
Your physical reality. Yeah. In a way. So basically, you're in a spacesuit. You're in space. You're in a suit, right? And depending on where you are on the spectrum of consciousness, you're always going to be in some sort of spacesuit. So your consciousness, when it enters into, these different layers of reality, it's going to be putting on these different suits. And so, say you're brand new, right? Brand new soul, coming from source, right? And to give you a basis of how the universe is set up. It's set up in masculine and feminine, right? Feminine is darkness, masculine is light. And all you got to do to understand how it works is, you have a man and a woman, right? The man impregnates the woman, right? The light impregnates the darkness. What do we have? A sun, right? That's what's going on. The light is impregnating the darkness. And this happens on every single dimension. The further you go up, all the way up to the top. And so at the top, you've got the barrier, which we call the abyss. And that barrier is the female womb of just nothingness. But within that nothingness is the possibility for the creation of everything, right? And so then the light, we could say at this point, it's just spiritual light, thought, or an idea, right? So before thought, we have ideas, right? And this is the basis of how your whole consciousness is composed. So you first have an idea. Aha, where'd the idea come from? Did you come up with the idea? Or did the idea come to you? It came to you, right? See, we don't create the ideas come to us, right? So just like that, your soul comes into the first layer of consciousness of the universe, the first layer of creation. Because after you have an idea, what do? You think a thought. Because you start to think about the idea, right? After you think a thought, what do? Not yet. You have a feeling. See, you have a feeling about those thoughts. You generate a feeling and an opinion, right? You decide how you feel about those thoughts and that idea. And then, what do? You take an action. Yeah. So you act upon your feelings, your thoughts, and the idea. And so your entire existence is made up of that process, and so is the whole entire universe. That's a little different. So that's basically more relating to the layers of consciousness pertaining to, you could divide those up into like 3 different parts. So
the part of you that has the thought, the part of you that experiences the thought, and the part of you that interprets and tries to.
Yeah, so basically ego is identity, and it's basically the conscious mind, and then you've got the subconscious mind, and then the superconscious mind. And so everything happens in 3s. You could divide everything by 3s. The layers of reality are divided into 3. Everything's divided by 3. The layers of time are divided by 3, right? 3, 3, 3, 3, everything, 3. And so you, again, comes back to like, the nature of the universe and reflection, as above, so below. You want to figure out anything in the universe, all you got to do is look at something else. You can look at the basis of the way of nature constructs itself, and you can basically figure out the entire universe, how everything works, just by looking at what you have right here, because it's a reflection of everything else.
What about like putting Jesus so he can reincarnate at will?
Yeah, well, I mean, at will. I don't know about at will. So we look at people we call messiahs or Buddhas or chosen ones or whatever you want to call it. I would say that they are probably been doing this for a long time, and that's why they get to that level. That's pretty much it. But they don't choose necessarily. Everybody chooses, to be here. But it's not like they're choosing something outside of what the universe, wants. It's kind of like they're playing by the same rules. You go through life after life, and you're, given a set of things to learn, just like they are. Everybody is, right? They go through their own struggles too. It's no different. It's just they've been probably doing it for longer, right? So if you're, this gets into like NPCs. Do you guys know what NPC is? Non-playable characters. That's so in a video game, right? You got non-playable characters and you got playable characters, right? The playable characters who you play. Non-playable characters are all the rest of the characters in the game. And so if you're a playable character in the game, right, then you can pretty much expect to, at some point, as long as you're seeking, to be a Buddha at some point. To be that person on some planet, somewhere, at some point in time, as your soul travels through experience after experience after experience, you know, if your soul continues that process and keeps going, right, and doesn't give up, then you're going to be that person at some point. That's pretty much it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. It's like, it's wild though. Like, I forgot for, the first half of my life, like 40 years, and then now I'm like fucking determined, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, you could forget.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Forget what?
Like, what you're doing.
Forget what you're doing?
Yeah, forget what you're doing. Forget why you came, you know?
Oh, okay. Well, a good way to figure out your purpose in life and why you came here is Vedic astrology. With Vedic astrology, you can look up somebody's chart, and you can tell them when they had kids, when they got married, when they fell in love, everything, when they got hurt, when they made money, when they lost money, down to the day, if you got their exact birth time. So just imagine if you studied that and learned that about yourself in your own chart. You know, if you're confused about what you're supposed to be doing, well, there's a chart right there for you. You know, and once you look it up, it's going to tell you everything you need to know. Yeah. You have any questions?
Oh, I was just thinking, a lot of times we talk about having a soul.
Mm-hmm.
We are a soul.
Mm-hmm.
We are a soul.
Yeah.
We don't have a soul. We are a soul.
Yeah.
Sri Aurobindo had developed what he called integral yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about taking on the identity of your true nature.
Yeah.
You know?
So you are a soul, but you're also not a soul. Well, no. So the soul.
Soul and lost.
Yeah. So the soul is half of you. The other half of you is transformed, for the most part. So your body, right? That's still you right now. It's you. And so your soul, right, is part of you. Your body, though it's temporary, is also part of you. You'll have another one in the next life, which will also be you. And then your energetic body will also be you as well, right? And then your thought body as well. So these different bodies, you're going to go through these transformations. All these other ones are temporary. The soul is the one that lives on and keeps on going, right? And then and that's kind of what's recording the process. So as long as you're playing in the existence of life, your masculine side is your soul, and then your feminine side is everything else, all the other bodies, which are all you, but they can transform, right? So like your body will pass on, and then you get a new one. Same thing with your energetic body, right? Your energetic body, after you leave, your energetic body will rejoin the earth as well, and then you get a new one in the next life, which is also you. So there's a part of you is constantly transforming, and a part of you is eternal. But they're both you. And eternally, all those transforming bodies that you've gone through were all you too. So it's a paradox, it's a bit of a paradox, but it's still
collective soul.
Yeah. It's still all you. That's why I guess we usually say my soul, right? Because it's a part, not really the whole. Even though it is the thing that keeps going eternally.
Yeah, I imagine that I am sitting in akin to like a control room of a television station in my pineal gland.
Yeah.
And I've got the memories and the live feed, and I've got and there's a big movie screen that's playing this soap opera called My Life.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everybody's had out of body, out of body. You kind of get an idea that the body is not maybe what you thought it was.
Yeah. So that control room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that control room is you're basically looking at either the layer right above it or the layer above that. So like I was saying earlier, it's spacesuits. So you're in a spacesuit because you're in space and you're in a suit. You're in a meat suit, right? And then above that, you're in an energetic suit in the energetic space. That's your feelings, right? And then above that, you're in your thought body suit because you're in the realm of thoughts. And then above that, that's your soul. That's the idea suit.
You know, when we come into, when we're born, and up until the time we start learning language, about 3, before we start thinking in language, our brains are operating in theta waves. And theta waves are our soul identity. When sadhu in India goes into samadhi, the samadhi trance, it's theta waves.
Yeah.
It's all that. And what happens is that once we, there's a shift in our sense of identity when we start learning language. Because then we start associating our feeling of self with the history of this, you know. And then, I'm sure you've heard Taylor and the Kingdom, you have to remember as a little child. You have to go back to theta. And the way to do that is just to stop.
Yeah.
And you can't even acknowledge when the shift starts to happen because they do that long.
Yeah.
You have to just turn it, you have to just turn it off. That off switch.
So this kind of gets into the thing that we were offering over there, which is the DMT light experience. And so basically it's a light that drops you into theta and then brings you into gamma. So somebody who's meditating, you know, that's what they do, especially for a living, you know, like a monk or something, right? Somebody who's very, very good at meditating like that, they're getting high. And they're getting high through meditation. And the way it works is when you stay in theta long enough, and then you eventually think no thoughts, your brain will spike into gamma, which is the equivalent of taking like a psychedelic medicine. And when it spikes into gamma, you basically have a DMT experience. Your lungs begin to produce DMT. That's why in meditation you're taught to breathe, because your lungs are doing most of the DMT production. And so the way you do that is you sit still in a comfortable position in a chair, hopefully with a straight back. You have a lot easier time because then you won't be tempted to fall asleep, because you have to hold yourself up. And you sit there as comfortably as you can. And your goal is to think no thoughts. Your body is going to try and stop you. It's going to start to create little itches. And you're like, oh, what's that? You know, like something's biting me or something. You know, but it's not real. It's all just like your nervous system. And basically, it's going to try and stop you from getting to the point of thinking no thoughts. If you can make it, which usually happens about the hour mark or 55-minute mark, especially for the first time, if you can make it to that point, you'll all of a sudden stop thinking thoughts. As soon as you stop thinking thoughts, you enter this, it's like just a blissful state of, yeah. And then all of a sudden, your brain spikes into gamma. And your kundalini just goes straight out your crown. Lights up everything. Full, like, and you can see it happening see it happening in your other bodies. It's just like an electric lightning storm that just rises up and just explodes.
This sounds like you're talking about the setting of sun, when everything is obliterated by this bright light. Mm-hmm. And what I've always thought that it was is that you know how feedback works with sound, where you get the mic close to the speaker. And you just,
yeah. Yeah.
And what happens in the brain is when the internal mirror turns on itself. Mm-hmm. So the soul is seeing soul is it sets up.
Yeah.
And that's what that light is. It's feedback comes to light.
Yeah.
It comes on like feedback. But if you're like that, but it's light.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like returning to your full experience, your full self. You're returning to the infinite when you do that. And basically, that's what that light does. It drops you into theta. It's a light and sound machine, and then guides your brain into gamma because your brain will follow whatever frequency it receives. And so if you're only getting an input from light and sound at a certain frequency, your brain's going to match it. And so it's able to guide your brain into that frequency. And so it just brings you right into gamma. And you immediately start seeing kaleidoscopes and cymatics in your mind. And you stay there long enough, you can quiet your mind because your thoughts can interfere as to how deep you go into that experience. But yeah, you'll get full-on visions, a full psychedelic journey. Yeah, and that's kind of what you would experience if you were to practice every day with meditating like that, which is very difficult. It gets more difficult too after the first time you do it, because you're expecting the same thing. And here's
It's the expectation.
Yeah, yeah,
Because that's active.
yeah,
That's what you're going for.
exactly.
Passive awareness.
Yeah. And then the other thing too that so when you have that experience for the first time, you immediately pretty much get knocked out of it because you get an adrenaline rush that follows, and you're like, "Holy crap, what's going on?" And but that immediately you're like, "Holy crap, that's a thought," knocks you out of it. So the adrenaline rush will knock you out of it. You have to basically what a professional meditator, is trying to do is trying to get there without the adrenaline rush happening. They have to get comfortable enough to keep going with it and subdue the adrenaline rush that follows, so they don't knock themselves out of the psychedelic experience.
The way I say is, it's in the beginning. It's the hardest thing you don't do.
Yeah, yes, it is the hardest thing you don't do. Yeah,
And then you realize, oh, it's a trick.
yeah,
And then once you realize the trick, then it becomes, you get aligned in a fast food place, and you drop into samadhi.
yeah.
Anything you want.
Uh huh.
You don't have to. It doesn't have to be a formal meditation. Let's say.
Yeah.
Once you learn the trick, it's just like you stop. You just stop. And here we go.
Does anybody have any questions? Are we in time? Done? How? Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you guys. Yeah.